Greetings sailors and welcome to a game I actually had earlier today that was just too silly and weird not to share with you. So here we are, it's the Yueyang, which is not a good ship. It's technically not a gearing, it's actually an Alan M. Sumner, but it's close enough to the gearing in how it looks and in its ostensible setup that that's the obvious one to compare it to, and it really is a lot closer to the gearing than pretty much any other of the tier 10 destroyers. But having said that, it is a bad gearing because apart from anything else it has a significantly worse DPM. It's not a horrible DPM. There are destroyers at this tier that have a worse DPM and a worse rate of fire, but it's not good. It's got a full second longer reload, 4 seconds versus 3 for the gearing, which is a significant difference. It's 15 rounds per minute versus 20 rounds per minute. And you've still got those US rather, the rather horrible ballistics that come with the Mark 38s, because it's the same Mark 38 gun. So you don't have any special advantage, unlike, say, the Russian destroyers, which tend to have the lower rates of fire, but rather better ballistics. So it's not a great gunboat. It's definitely not a great gunboat. There's a lot of things that will easily out DPM you, and it's not like it's especially stealthy either. It is better than the gearing, but at I think 5.8, that's the best it can get to. It's still going to be outspotted by other things, and there's plenty of other ships that will spot it at around the same time. So it's not a great destroyer for tackling other destroyers, and of course, lest we forget, as a Pan-Asian destroyer, it can't torpedo them either. So you're just always at an inherent disadvantage from that as well. You're never just going to be able to pop off a few torpedoes into somebody's smoke and catch them unawares. It does, of course, have the option of a radar. This is one of the reasons why I decided to put this one up right away, because I made a bit of a gaffe in that video on the Orkan where I was talking about high-tier Royal Navy destroyers having radar. That's not true at all, of course. It's the Pan-Asian destroyers. The Shenyang, the... what's the tier 9 again? I should know that. That one, the one that's basically a Fletcher, and then this one, the Yueyang, and yeah, of them, frankly, only the tier 9 is one I would go back and play in anything other than once in a blue moon. The last time I played the Yueyang was a long time ago. It's one of those tier 10s that I bought just because I kind of felt I had to ground it out, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I might as well buy it. So yeah, it's not great, and with that in mind, I should also point out this has a 10-point captain, so it's also not brilliant. It's one of the special Pan-Asian captains you can buy that has a bonus to the survivability expert, so it does have a decent chunk of hit points, but it's nothing great. So yeah, the guns aren't super good, and the torpedoes also aren't super good. They're shorter range than the ones that you get on the gearing. The upgraded ones on the gearing, and they also have a rather longer reload. So it's just, I don't know, it doesn't have any comfortable role doing anything apart from if you want to take a radar, and even then it's a shorter duration radar. There are better ships that have better destroyers that are there for radar these days. In fact, frankly, if I was in an Orkan versus this thing and we both had radar, I think I would still fancy my chances with the Orkan. Because at that point, neither of us would have smoke. The Orkan would have a much better rate of fire, and also the possibility of torping this. Anyway, so that's the Shimmer down, that's that main threat, but as it turns out, there's another main threat in the form of this Z-52, and of course he's got Hydra, and I've lost most of my hit points at this stage, just fighting that Shimakaze. Yes, we managed to kill the Shimakaze, although I had some help from allies, it wasn't all my damage, but that took about, what, 40+% of my own health? No, 60+% of my own health in the process, because those Shimmer guns do hurt. You just simply don't have the rate of fire, and you can buff the rate of fire. I mean, I've got the module that increases the torp reload module 2 or whatever it's called, that reduces your torpedo rate of your torpedo reload down to a mere 2 minutes. A mere 2 minutes, and you can in that slot instead have the one that increases your rate of fire for a decrease in turret traverse instead. But only that only gets you down to just over 3.5 seconds. It's like 3.55. This, by the way, massive mistake on my part. Of course the Hydro would still be active, but I figured he'd have backed off, and instead he got actually a little bit closer, so I then pulled back into Hydro range. And that's going to cost me dearly. I was already struggling for hit points. And, well, you'll see. Yeah. 12 hit points. You want to know the best part? I don't even have adrenaline rush on this captain. Like I said, it's a 10-point captain. And I had last stand in that second point place. I don't even get any benefit from this. Other than the adrenaline now going through my own veins. So this is all completely sped up. There's going to be some way more sped up sections in this one than usual because, well, there's a lot of sections where there's not a lot happening for me, but it's still, it would be cutting too much out in order to see what the rest of the flow of game is like. Because as you can see, it's kind of going in the enemy team's favour without killing them, but only just, and they do now have 2 cap circles. And hey, look, there's that Z52 again. Given all the other things this has to struggle with, honestly, I don't entirely know why it doesn't have better stealth. I mean, yeah, it's a bit better than the gearing, but it's like 100 meters better, if that. If it was at 5.6, 5.7, that might be a lot more comfortable. That would give it something to work with, but I don't know, Wargaming seemed fixated on the idea that everybody's always going to be using radar with this all the time, which is why it's ended up in a bad state. That Z52 out of the picture, by the way, a really nice hit from, I think, the Montana, though that Montana's not going to last much longer, so that's incredibly useful. And I also managed to avoid getting blatted myself in return. At least I had the quick cooldown on the smokes going for me. But there is still one enemy destroyer left around somewhere, and although I can in theory now also get some torpedoes away on battleships, well, hello, of course that's where that enemy destroyer popped up, and my smoke isn't actually quite ready yet. A single secondary hit will kill me, or obviously a single hit from that Shima, but luckily for me the Shima actually smoked up, and I've managed not to get hit still. Now they have popped out their smoke, they've realised their mistake, they've realised they could have taken me out. That crucial delay has let me get my own smoke back. But yeah, this has been awfully close even so. And I can now shoot them myself. There's also shots coming in from that battleship to the south, but it looks like they're kind of struggling. There's cruisers shooting as well. However, there's another kill. Okay, sure, whatever. I'll take it. I haven't exactly done a lot of damage so far, but the fact that I'm still alive at all is extremely improbable. So now the Thunderer looks like a good target. I'm kind of hoping that my allies will be able to cap. I mean, the Des Moines is just north of B, and our other remaining destroyers just north of C. They do still have one radar cruiser left, the Worcester, but they're busily murdering the Bourgogne at the moment, so I am well out of range for them and the Des Moines. In fact, the two, yeah, they've got the Worcester and the Des Moines, haven't they? So I can't really get close to them, but the Harugumo takes out the Des Moines. Their other remaining battleship has died, and so it's just the Worcester and the Thunderer now. And the Thunderer is obviously aware I'm around because I was spotted down here, so it's completely logical to assume I would be going for them. And although, of course, you have got the more limited spotting range for these torps, is it 800 meters? Yeah, it's 800 meters, isn't it? So in theory, they're a lot harder to dodge. An aware battleship is still going to be making all kinds of dodging maneuvers anyway, but I've managed to work myself into a more favourable position for my next drop. I'm now basically dropping on their side, but they do look like they're starting to turn away from me a bit. And maybe put some fire in towards the north where the Worcester is engaging the Harugamo. This has come down to being really close. We've closed the gap on points, but they are still ahead, and I have no idea what health my allies are on. Fortunately for me, however, there we go, the Des Moines takes care of the Worcester, so the Worcester can't have been that high health, and really all that's left is this Thunderer, who was all the way down here, and basically took themselves out of the action to deal with our... what was it? Begonia, who, I mean, it was long-range cruiser HE spam that was doing the trick there. So, with them now turning themselves back around north, I'm finally able to get some torpedo hits, and because the torpedoes do actually do a reasonable amount of damage, not as much as Japanese torpedoes, but it's, I think, the exact same damage as the gearing torps, I'm going to get some hits. And they've repaired one flooding, and there's enough of a gap in between my waves that the second hits, if I get them, or the hits from the second wave, if they cause a flooding, it will stick. And lo and behold, there we go, I actually get 2 floodings. And so this Thunder is now in serious trouble. They're under fire from the Des Moines. Still no idea what health the Des Moines is on, but if nothing else, I'm keeping this guy spotted for my allies. And between the flooding and those torpedo hits, I finally have got some decent damage. But it was all at the end of the game, and I'm even going to get the final kill with the flooding. What a weird game. Pretty much any other destroyer apart from something that was really geared towards being a gunboat, like say the Kleber or the Khabarovsk, would have done better, probably. I'd have been able to at least try and put some torps out against other enemies, or I'd have had some better a better time dealing with those other destroyers. The only real advantage I had being in a Yueyang was that ability to more quickly lay down smoke, which did save me at certain moments. That was it. But I would hope that I wouldn't have been in quite such a parlous state in another destroyer. And I wouldn't have been swanning around on 12 hit points for, over half the match, and desperately hoping not to run into anything that might spot me, which of course lots of things can, or at least spot you at the same time that you spot them. So yeah, getting the damage at the end just felt like a bonus, but I think the main accomplishment there was just surviving. Well, 12 hit points. In fact, any game you manage to successfully influence the outcome of in a Yueyang is probably something you can count as a great success. But yeah, man, I wish I could say there was some saving grace to this shit, but there really isn't. There just isn't. There's a reason why I don't play this. There's a reason why it's only got a 10-point captain in it. Short of dumping a whole bunch of elite captain XP, there's no way I'm grinding it up further on its own. So yeah, fingers crossed someday this will get looked at, but for now, Wargaming seem intent on leaving it in the same sorry state it's in right now. And although it's not my least favourite tier 10 destroyer, it's definitely up there. I'd rather play this than a Marceau, but only just. One of the suggestions, actually I will just say this before I wrap this up, one of the suggestions I have seen for this ship that I really did like was, and I think this was from Reddit, I can't really remember who would have suggested it, some random Reddit person, but on the off chance they see this, apologies that I couldn't remember your name. But yeah, that essentially there be 2 separate hulls for this ship, and maybe the other high tier Pan-Asian destroyers as well, and one that can mount the Hydro and one that can mount the Smoke, and the one that can mount not Hydro, radar, and the one that can mount the radar has the lower rate of fire, and the one that can mount the Smoke has a higher rate of fire, because if this thing had the 3-second reload that the gearing had, meeting other destroyers would be a far more comfortable experience. But yeah, as it is, it doesn't do anything particularly well at all, apart from survive on 12 hit points, apparently. That's what we've learned today. You need to get down to 12 hit points and then it's all gravy. Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed this completely silly and not at all serious replay. If you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, Stay tuned for more.